So you've been living with your parents for like 16, 17, 18, maybe even 20 years, and you're tired, right? You live in close quarters with people from the previous generation, which is okay. It's not a bad thing. But now you want to explore the world. You want to understand more about what the world is, but you feel like your parents can sometimes hold you back. Not for any fault of theirs, but because of the fact that they're just from a previous generation. Right? They did things differently in that generation, and your generation is completely different. You feel like you'll be left behind sitting at home. So when I was 17 or 18, I felt exactly the same way, which is why I ended up getting a college seat in a hostel, ended up moving to that hostel just so that I can learn more about life by myself. Why I think Indian kids should move out. So the first benefit of moving out, according to me, is that you truly become independent. Look, I'm very, very, very sure you might say it in public that, boss, I do all the chores at home, I help make the bed, I help clean the clothes, but I can mostly guarantee you don't do it, right? You're just saying it to look cool. In reality, what happens is, you know that your parents are always going to be there for you. Whereas when I went to hostel for the first time, there was nobody. I felt really, really, really sick for 2 weeks, and the plates and the clothes just piled up. Nothing moved, nothing happened. And then I had to learn how to get a maid, how to get a cook, just so that I could function when I was sick and go to college at the same time. So I feel not only does it make you independent, it also gives you a perspective on what your parents do for you. When I moved to hostel, I had a hostel mate with me. So I learned how to coordinate with them. If I was sick, they'd pick up the slack, and I realized if they were sick, I need to help out. So you learn this idea of reciprocity, right? That I will help this person and one day this person will help me. My second big point behind moving out is you actually learn to manage people, and you learn those interpersonal skills. How often have you fought with your parents? It could be about you leaving the geyser on, or it could be about you leaving your clothes around. You're arguing all the time. And if you say, hey, my relationship with my parents is great, I've never argued, I don't believe you. Because by design, when people of two different generations are put together, arguments are bound to happen. Now with your parents, all is forgiven, right? With your parents and siblings, all is forgiven. If you shout, they shout, they're not going to kick you out of the house. They are always going to come apologize later in the day, or maybe a week later, or you're going to go and apologize to them. But when you live with flatmates, there is a line you can't cross. You can't bicker and argue all the time, because then your flatmate will actually leave. People, especially between the ages of 18 to 24, start developing something called agency. Agency means they are now capable of making decisions by themselves. And by the way, it's those same skills you apply when you go and work at a job. The next thing is freedom. When I tell people that they should move out, right? The image in their head is that now they've moved out, it's on dingy apartment, and they're smoking and doing drugs and drinking and, throwing money all around the place. But that rarely happens. When you move out, there are more challenges than there are benefits. For a second, I also want to talk about the benefits. Your parents are like a golden handcuff. They keep you along the right track, but it's also a handcuff. In the sense, you're not able to explore what is good and bad. Your parents assume the worst. It's human behavior. In fact, what I've seen, especially in hostel and college, is both the bads, and I've seen really bad bads, and I've also seen really good goods. I've seen people like my co-founder Abhinav in college. He went out, joined the college cell, right? And he used to sit and work till like 12 in the night. I used to do the same. The company that I ran in college, Sizer, sponsored the college event, right? And we did that because we sat till 12 or 1 in the night creating the graphics for that event. I'm very sure I wouldn't be able to do that at home. My parents just wouldn't let me out till 12, especially at that age. I also learned a lot about my passions. At home, my parents would make sure I slept at 10. Lights out at 10. It used to always be like that. But in the hostels, I used to often sleep at 1 or 2 in the night because I'd be hard at work working on something. And because of that, I went on to be one of the youngest entrepreneurs in the country to have raised venture capital. And because of that freedom, I was dangerously low on attendance. And I had to learn how to manage that. I had to learn how to collaborate with the teacher and say, hey, can you please improve my attendance so that I'll be able to write the exams? If you stay at home, or you go out to hostel, or you go live in a flat, whether you do any of these three things, it is not going to take away the fact that there are bads in the world, that there are really low lows in the world. What your parents are unconsciously doing, some of them are consciously doing it, is trying to protect you from the worst. There is an absolutely crazy amount of horrid stuff that's going on in the world, and you are not exempt from it. You live in the same world. Blinding yourself or handcuffing yourself from the bads is not going to help. It reminds me of the story of Gautam Buddha. When Gautam Buddha was young, his name was Siddhartha. His parents, and he was born in royalty, his parents basically prevented him from seeing any of the bad in the world. They prevented him from seeing death. They prevented him from seeing crime, from theft. The reason they did all of that is because when he was young, they all met a sage, and the sage told them that if Siddhartha sees the bad in the world, he's going to go and become a spiritual person, right? Whereas if you keep him on the right track and he doesn't see any of that, he's going to become one of the best kings in the world. Now, his parents, obviously, trying to keep him away from the bad side, held him on and shielded him from everything. And the story goes that Siddhartha once went out into the city and saw an old man die. And the minute he saw that old man die, he realized that there is so much more he could do in this world than just be a king and rule from the top. And that made him a different person. In fact, as history goes, it made him the person that he was. It made him immortal in time. It made his story immortal in time. Now, there's a point that some people bring up, a very valid point, that, hey, your parents are old, or your parents need your help, or your parents are going to be alone when you move out. And who's there to take care of them? I have a flip side argument to that. In fact, this is an argument from Jordan Peterson. Jordan Peterson says that when you're at home, especially when you're under the thumb of your father and your mother, you're always going to be rank 3 at home. None of your decisions are going to be the decisions that are carried forward by the household. In fact, most likely your dad makes that decision. Now, you're in no position to argue with your dad because, like I said, you're rank 3 in the house. And moving out gives you no choice. You have to make those decisions or your house is going to burn. So I feel like sometimes moving out makes you a better person so that when you come back, you're actually able to take care of your parents. Now, I personally believe that you shouldn't live without your parents for the rest of your life. I think that between the ages of 18 to 25, 26, when your parents are ideally still in their under 50 or maybe 50 to 60, that's the best time to go out, explore, and then come back. Maybe 25 or 30, you should come back home. And the cool thing about that is that now you are independent. You can make decisions and you are better equipped to take care of your parents if something goes wrong. The average lifespan in India now is between 80 and 90. So your parents, assuming you're 18 or 19, haven't even lived half their life. And they're going to get older. And when they get older, what they don't want is a son or daughter who is completely incompetent because you have never seen the goods or the bads. So I prefer you take those 3 or 4 years, maybe 5 years, go out, learn about the world, learn about everything from science to philosophy to what's good, what's bad, freedom, what you want to do in the world, and then come back when you are now ready to take control of the household. Maybe your father is willing to relinquish control of the household to you, even if you're a woman. Because Indians have traditionally always had a very male-focused household. Even that's changing now. I feel even if you're a woman, you can now take control of the house provided you are independent enough, provided you know what you're doing. The last thing you want to do is take control of your household and run it into the mud, which I've seen a lot of spoiled kids do. Spoiled kids who are never allowed to truly learn about who they are. Now, one last argument against this is that it's against Indian culture. That moving out and leaving your parents for that till the age of 25 is against Indian culture. And I will call bullshit on this. Whoever is saying this online has not read any of the Indian sacred textbooks. You've not read the Vedas. Because in the Vedas, there is a clear reference to the idea of a brahmacharya. A brahmacharya is basically a child. Usually in the old days, kids were sent out to school. It was called a gurukul. And you'd stay there till the age of 25, learning everything from manners to science to philosophy and how to live your life. Till the age of 25, you'd be outside, right? And you'd most likely live with your guru in school, in hostel. So India, in fact, has had one of the longest standing hostel systems in the world. You are against culture if you say that, hey, Indians have to sit with their parents. Because obviously when children move out and they go to a hostel, they're not living with their parents. Your parents, in fact, are in the peak or prime of their career when you move out. And the Indian scripture also understands this. Even females are allowed to move out to Gurukul, learn, get better, and then come back. So if you like this video, smash that like button and make sure you subscribe because I'm going to be putting out a stream of videos like this. Bye.